You've decided on your career direction, you put together your resume, you revamped your LinkedIn, you go out into the search ready to take on the world and get your offer. You feel confident that you have everything you need and everything's in place. And then that first week hits. You find rejections, you find ghosting, you are encountered by zero attention. All of a sudden, all the confidence you had leading up to this week feels like it drained right out of your body and like the entire process is completely hopeless. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore why this happens, how it affects your search, and what to watch out for so you can get ahead of it well before it takes over your entire process. Hey there, this is the Uncommon Career Podcast, and we're here every week to help you uncover your blind spots, to remove that interference that you're feeling as you're getting into the search, and to help you get to a better offer faster. My name is Patricia, and I'm your career coach and brand strategist, but also your transformational coach. I bring together the job search and concepts like emotional intelligence and resilience and confidence to make sure that you're showing up at your very best. This podcast is for mid-career women who want to convey their value powerfully, who want to smooth their job search, and who want to start showing up differently, not just in your search, not just at interviews, but also in your new position. If you're new here, one of the first steps to take is to learn a little bit more about our strategy and process. How is it that we overcome some of these blind spots that we talk about so often and tackle the search in a structured way? There's 5 steps we go through in our process, and you can grab those at theuncommoncareer.com/process. That's theuncommoncareer.com/process. So when you have one experience and that one data point derails your entire process, often what's happening is that your mind is taking a shortcut from one event all the way to a pattern, all the way to verified truth, all with one data point. And that might be why you find yourself spinning or going for one door and then backing out and going through another door and, making all these decisions over and over again that have you feel like you're spinning in circles. Now, the reason why this came up is because I was having a conversation with a client. Now, she's at the beginning of the process, so hang in there with me because I'm going to share a story of, we're going to call him Paul, one of my prior clients who has already gotten to the end of the process. But I first started thinking about this because my current client came into a call, and normally I can see the activity before we get on our call. And so I saw activity and I thought, awesome, we're going to talk about momentum and gaining traction and all the things. And the opposite happened. So she comes on this call. This is how much you have expectations. And then when, when you come in and you're like ready to be like, congratulations, and it doesn't happen, you're like, oh man, I totally misread that. But anyway, she comes on this call and she's just defeated. She's like, I don't think this is going to work. At this point, I don't know if I should get a job at a grocery store. There's just no way this is ever going to work. And that's where she was. But after talking to her, I realized that her question really isn't, is this going to work? The real question is, why do I feel so low when I felt so good last week and all the way leading up to this week? And this experience has just taken the wind out of my sails. Why does that happen? And it's a pattern. That pattern is the same every time. Grounded preparation, one bad report, toss everything out. Here's the thing though. I'm going to share with you what happened with, again, we're going to call him Paul. I'm going to share what happened with Paul. So the exact same thing, but I share his story because you can see what happens at the end. That's the most important piece. That's where the moral of the story is. Okay, so Paul comes to me after a year and a half of job searching. And I remember on our very first call, Paul said something to the effect of, I've been searching for a year and a half. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it is, I'm going to do it with help because I'm just tired of submitting. He was at 400 applications at that point. And so I said, okay, let's go through the search. And so we go through the typical process, and that is, hey, let's get really clear on your direction. And originally I thought he was a senior manager in his last position, and he had been there for, I believe, 2-3 years. And so I thought, okay, it might be time for a director position. That was my assumption. And he immediately corrected me and said, no, I am not ready for that. And I don't think I would be competitive for that. And so I need to create branding specifically for senior manager. That's where I'm comfortable. That's where I'm confident. That's my decision. And I said, okay, let's go ahead and create your branding material. So we created his resume and all the things, right? And as we were creating it, he was feeling good, which is usually the case. You're excited because you start to see your value and put words to your accomplishments and decide the framing and the positioning that you need in order to, share your experience in a way that resonates with the hiring leaders. And so we went through all that process. Well, then he goes on to the job search module. We have different modules, right? And so we create all your messaging and then you get into the job search. And so he goes into the job search module and he's hyped. He's like, I got my process ready to go. I'm in. And then he starts. And after just 1 week, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks at the maximum, and that's usually the same for everyone. After about 1 or 2 weeks, he comes back and the same thing, a lot of action. I can see it before we meet. But then he says, yeah, something's wrong. This isn't working. I'm just so defeated. Very same kind of feeling, right? It just felt so hopeless. 180 from the prior week. But here's the thing. I said, okay, we need to take the emotion out of this. And so what we did is we took the emotion out of it. We said, every time you take an action, you forget. You set your reminder. If you need to do a follow-up, you set your reminder, but then you forget. Don't even worry. You're busy creating new connections. Don't worry about the response. And there's a mindset video. And so he decided he's going to focus on positive things. And so part of his routine was to listen to that mindset video or watch that before every single day's worth of, job search activity. And so he did that week after week after week. And you know what happened? It was only 4 weeks when someone reached out to him and said, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this position. And he was like, really? Okay. They started interviewing. We supported him through that process. And not only did he get hired, let me remind you, he said, senior manager is where I fit best. Paul got a director level position. Even though we created his branding, kind of targeting these senior manager roles, he was ready for it. And so that message he got during that first week where he felt completely hopeless and said, I don't think this is going to work. Not only was it wrong, it was completely wrong because he didn't get a senior manager role, he got a director role. And so the moral of the story here, I want you to walk away knowing that an experience can have an impact on you. That's totally normal. It has an impact on all of us. But it doesn't have to define your future, and it doesn't have to derail your process. I hope that this story helps to release you from the grip of that one bad report you got this week, of that lack of response to your connections, of that rejection email from your favorite company, or the fact that X company, whatever other company that is, hasn't responded to you after you went on 2 interviews with them. Feel that release from the grip of that one bad report. Each data point is just a data point. And so I want you to watch out for signs that you're giving any one data point or any one experience too much power. The goal here is to use these to help improve your process, not to derail or to stall the process. I hope this was helpful for you. If you did find it helpful, probably the next step, if you found yourself in that stalled or stuck position, is to get clarity on your search as a whole. Oftentimes, there's one big question underlying every part of the job search hesitation, or if you feel like something's not right, I feel a sense of uncertainty. There's usually one big underlying question. And part of what I do with our audits is we take a look at your branding and we, figure out what's going on. But more than anything else, we try to answer and we get clarity on that one question that's underlying everything else. If you think that might be helpful for you, I encourage you to find a time at theuncommoncareer.com/audit. Again, that's theuncommoncareer.com/audit. I'm so glad that we got a chance to tackle this today because it is so common, so frequent, and I'm telling you, it happens in nearly every single search. So if it happened to you, know that you're in good company, but you also want to watch out for those moments to make sure you're not giving one event too much power. Anyhow, know that Denise and I are cheering you on. We're praying for you, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.